Hi there, this is Brent Smith, and I'm the Common Constitutionalist, and welcome to the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Audio Podcast. I'm not going to bother going into why it's an audio and not a video, it just is. So today I'm going to be talking about one topic, and it has to do with a certain college campus. Yep, it has to do with race and political correctness run amok. What a shocker. Today on the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Audio Podcast.
You are listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
So welcome back. Again, this is Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist. And I got this from the College Fix, which is a conservative website dedicated to college issues, university issues, similar to campus reform, and as good, I might add. So they write that, well, they don't write, but I put, this past November, an incident occurred at the University of Texas, San Antonio, the UTSA. A student, Paige Burgess, who just happened to be black, was escorted out of a lecture hall by campus police. Well, that doesn't sound very good now, does it? Let's go. Let's dig into this a little. She evidently was being disruptive in class and putting her feet up on the chairs in front of her. This wasn't a regular classroom. It was a lecture hall similar to the seats you see in movie theaters where, one seat's behind another. There's no desk or anything. And she apparently had hiked her feet up on some of the chairs in front of her. And apparently, according to the school guide, that's a no-no. So it's not just the teacher's rules. This is the school rules. Well, her biology professor, Anita Moss, who just happens to be white, had warned her and the entire class of such behavior. Keep your feet off the chairs, don't talk to one another during lectures, turn your dadgum cell phones off, etc., etc., and most of all, be respectful in class. And at one point during the school year, the biology professor Moss even asked one group of students to separate for the entire semester, for the rest of the semester, as they were causing constant disruptions, according to a report by Howard Grimes, interim dean of the College of Sciences. So it wasn't just this one student, Paige Burgess. She was just the latest offender. And the student, Burgess, whom Moss called the campus police on, interestingly, never filed a complaint and has since apologized to the instructor for her behavior. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that the school sided with a white professor against a black student. No frickin' chance of that happening. Sorry, not in this current environment. No, it tells us basically that the student knew what she did was wrong and that the professor was right to discipline her. That's what it tells me, at least. And it really, frankly, it doesn't really matter if you think the rule is a dopey rule, just like you think a law is a dopey law. If it's so dopey, get to somebody and get it changed. If you think these school rules are too restrictive, go, sign petitions, do whatever you need to do, take it to the administration, and see if you can get that rule changed. But I don't think it's unreasonable not to hike your feet up on a chair in front of you, whether somebody's sitting there or not. This isn't your daggum living room or your dorm room or your bedroom. This is supposed to be a college-level class, biology class. But the school still conducted an investigation into Moss to see if the discipline was racially motivated. Of course they did. Naturally, this was a CYA investigation, cover your ass investigation. Now, I'm quoting the College Fix, quote, UTSA, I don't know why is that so hard to say, UTSA's Office of Equal Opportunity Services looked into whether Moss's actions were discriminatory. After searching through her social media posts, interviewing current and previous students, and talking to Burgess, it concluded racial bias was not a factor and decided not to further investigate Moss, unquote. Now, I'm just pointing this out. All these things, the equal opportunity services, the investigation, the interviews, finding previous students, finding current students, talking to the student, talking to the professor, Somebody's getting paid to do this, which means it costs money to investigate this nonsense. And this is how they choose to spend your tuition money. And since this is a state school, congratulations, Texas, this is how you're choosing to spend your tax money, too. So let's all remember that. And, of course, like I said before, or like it was quoted, they found nothing. No racism, nothing. However, they did find that Professor Moss was an excellent professor, quote unquote, and that she, quote, was one of the best instructors they had at UTSA, unquote. So Moss is and was a great teacher. The students loved her, and the disruptive student admitted she was wrong and even apologized. So that was it, right? Of course it was. That was the end of it. Well, wrong-a-rooney. No, it wasn't the end of it. Despite all that, the politically correct, virtue-signaling, spineless administrators, quote, yanked her out of the classroom for the semester and for the remainder of the semester and required her to undergo classroom management training, unquote. Yep, they yanked her for the entire balance of the semester over nothing. Also, they could cover their butts. It's just, I don't know. It's just ridiculous, and it's so wrong to treat a professor like this, who by all right or by all admission is apparently the students love her and she's a great teacher, but she's also, I guess, a flaming racist. I don't know. So now I'm quoting the College Fix again. Quote, despite identifying a long history of disruptive behavior by Burgess, so this isn't her first infraction, as well as Moss's positive reviews as a faculty member, the administration still decided to remove her from the class for the semester. Another instructor was chosen to take over her duties, and an unarmed safety officer was placed in the classroom, unquote. I mean, really? Come on. So you're going to, I know I loved this when I read it, so you're going to love it too, no doubt. If you're a lover of freedom, free speech, free expression, and all that stuff, you're going to love this. In order for her to return as an instructor the next semester, this semester as it is, Moss had to, quote, engage with UTSA's teaching and learning services individually to understand her internal and the external factors negatively impacting her capacity to manage the classroom, unquote, according to an after-action report. Honestly. She will also have to follow up with the TLS, the Teaching and Learning Services folk, after each semester for 3 years for a, quote, quick course diagnosis, unquote, and must first receive approval to teach her course. So basically, a student who repeatedly disrupts the class, is known for bad behavior, gets escorted from the classroom by campus police for that behavior, and nothing happened to Burgess. She didn't have to pay any cost for this other than an apology that apparently wasn't a forced apology. But the teacher, who is, like I said, apparently is a great teacher, the students love her, she's one of the best professors on campus, she gets suspended for a semester and is sent to, for all intents and purposes, a re-education camp and has to check in with her probation officer for the next 3 freaking years over this. It's just, it's unbelievable. So we're gonna take a real quick break, and I'll be back as we fast forward to today. Now remember, that was last year. Be right back.
You're listening to The Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
All right, I am back, and again, thank you for listening. Sorry you're not watching. Maybe you're not sorry. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to see me. Whatever. But we were talking about a university professor who got suspended over basically nothing, and I'm not even gonna. Whatever. We'll go into the racial component because it rears its ugly head again. So now we fast forward back from last year up to today, or a couple of days ago at least. And this is the same school, University of Texas at San Antonio, UTSA, and the same professor, Anita Moss. And the school has suspended Ms. Moss once again. And it's nice to see that she got to start the semester, and apparently a couple days after it started, then they suspended her again. Unbelievable. The student newspaper, the Paisano, reported that Moss was yanked from the classroom due to a new concern regarding classroom management. Jeez. What management? I mean, you go in there, the students are supposed to shut the crap up when you get there. You teach the lecture. They answer questions, ask questions, do whatever they do, and then class is dismissed and you go on your merry way and you can make all the noise you like in the hallway or outside. You don't do it in the classroom. That's classroom management. How hard is that? The teacher's respectful of the children and the kids are respectful to the teacher. Really difficult. So the College Fix writes that reached for comment via email, campus spokesman Joe Isbrand, I guess that's how you pronounce it, or Isbrand, provided the College Fix with a statement from the Vice President for Academic Affairs, Kimberly Epsey. She says, quote, a preliminary inquiry revealed that despite persistent and substantive, thank you, intervention, speak much, no, it's a new tongue, that remain persistent concerns with Dr. Moss's classroom management that warrant her relief from all instructional responsibilities at this time. In other words, you yanked her and she's not allowed to teach. That's her instructive responsibilities. Unbelievable. And then beyond the little thing that Kimberly Epsey put out, the statement that Kimberly Epsey put out, beyond that, they pulled the old can't comment on an ongoing investigation card. And that's once again, as it usually is, it's a great cop-out and nothing more. So just as they did last time, one of her students began a petition getting hundreds of signatures. I think it was like 600, 700 signatures to have Moss reinstated. One student wrote, quote, I've had her for 3 semesters, and she was the sweetest to me and everyone else who asked for help. She is so enthusiastic when it comes to teaching and loves her students, unquote. And then she added, the student added, quote, people are changing the narrative into her being a power-hungry post-election racist when she is none of these things at all, unquote. Oh, and the girl writing this just happened to be the one changing the narrative and whatnot. She just happened to be a person of color, not a fellow Klansman like apparently Ms. Moss is being made out to be. Sheesh. But in order to get their way, of course, whomever is trying to, the administration and whatnot, to cover their own butts, is of course changing the narrative because it's much easier to condemn the professor unless, matter of fact, it'd be darn near impossible to condemn her and yank her from the class if you didn't change the narrative into some sort of racial nonsense. And of course, this is a college campus we're talking about. College campuses these days are some of the most restrictive venues on the planet. There's no such thing as free speech, and there's no such thing as free expression anymore. Everything is now overseen and monitored by the race police, the speech police, the separation of church and state police, and the thought police. And if you're white, you are guilty of racism, even if all the facts, like in this case, like Ms. Moss's case, and Discovery say the exact opposite. But that's the way it works on college campuses. The first thing the administration does is put out some dumbass statement, excuse my French, to cover their asses, to make sure that they aren't called racist, because that's the most important thing. Make sure that you at least appear to be tolerant. So, the College Fix writes, reached for comment via email, Anika Brown, Vice President of the university's Black Student Union, said, quote, we hope the student, Ms. Burgess, is satisfied with the outcome and that the professor has learned from the situation and will react differently going forward, unquote. Well, hell yes, the student is probably satisfied. Why the crap wouldn't she be? She got her own way. And the poor college professor has paid the price. I wouldn't say the ultimate price, but a big price. She doesn't get to teach. She didn't get to teach last semester. She doesn't get to teach this semester. And who knows what the hell is going to happen to this poor woman just because she tried to enforce the school's own rules. But thanks to all you spineless weaklings, you've instilled in young Ms. Burgess, and I hate to say that this isn't really even her fault, Ms. Burgess, the black student, it's not her fault. And all the students that are paying attention, the administration and everyone who's pushing this narrative nonsense basically is giving these students a sense of entitlement, that they're completely unaccountable and even have some sort of phony privilege when it comes to that. And I suppose if you're, at least of average intelligence, you can figure out that now she can pretty much do and act as she likes, whatever, and there will be no consequences for her actions. I'm talking about the student body, or Burgess in particular, because she's representative of the student body in this particular case. But I don't understand. There's just, again, she's just been taught that there's no accountability, there's no consequence for her actions, but she, as a result of her race, can bring the full authoritarian power of the school to bear on any white person, any white teacher, student, administrator, whomever, and potentially ruin their entire lives. I don't know how long Anita Moss has been teaching, but she looked like a elderly white woman. So my guess is that she's probably been a professor. I don't know about this college, but she's probably been a professor for quite a while. And now she probably doesn't have one clue what the hell is happening to her. So if you're, the lesson learned here, unfortunately, is that if you're a student of color, a minority, I hate saying it these terms, because it's just so ridiculous that people have to be treated this way. But if you're a minority student other than Asian, because they're treated completely differently, it's now basically been affirmed to Miss Burgess and other students, the ones that have been least paying attention to this nonsense, that you guys basically run the school now. That particular school and hundreds and hundreds of other universities and colleges around the country. Spineless administrators they're so fearful of being labeled racist that they will bend over at the slightest threat. And basically this is allowing the inmates to run the asylum. So that's all I've got. It's just uncanny. It's just unbelievable. Well, it's all too believable. I wish I could say it's unbelievable, but it's becoming so typical that it probably just barely registers on any national news or national websites or whatnot, because it's become so common. It's not uncommon. It's not the exception anymore. And if you're a white student, you're a white professor or whatnot, you really got to watch yourself. You got to watch yourself with this gender crap, with the sexism stuff, with the racism stuff. The deck is really stacked against you at this point. And some might say, well, it's about time, the white bit, blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe it's about time for some. But college campuses are supposed to be the enclaves of free speech, free thought, free expression. That's the way it's supposed to be. Free debate, whatever you want to call it. But that it's so far from that now that it's unbelievable. It's so utterly restrictive that it's just, I don't know. Online school is looking really good for a lot of kids, in my opinion. So that's all I've got for today. I'm Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist. And I hope you guys have a great balance of the weekend. Go Patriots. Yeah, buddy. And that's all I've got. I'm out. See ya.